Okay, so we are going to start out our understanding and study of AP government by looking at the Constitution and some of the basics about the Constitution. The Constitution is one of the foundational documents that you will be introduced to throughout AP Gov and is an important one. And really, for us to move forward with AP government, this is a great place to start. I know that you have been exposed to the Constitution if you took APUSH or even if you took US history last year. I know that they do touch on the Constitution. So, really, this should be more of a review for you. But I want to make sure we're all on the same page before we get started. So when we talk about the U.S. Constitution, we should know, hopefully, that the Constitution was not our first attempt at government in the United States. We had something called the Articles of Confederation first, and for various reasons, it failed. The Articles of Confederation is another foundational document that we'll be diving into in the next couple of weeks. But anyways, because of the failures of the Articles of Confederation, some men got together in the summer, May really, of 1787 in Philadelphia and began the process of starting a new government under the Constitution. What they ended up creating was a constitution that has three parts. First, there is the preamble. Then there are 7 articles, which is the meat or the substance. And then there are amendments to the Constitution, of which there are 27. I'm going to invite you now to take a look at the National Constitution Center. The National Constitution Center and the AP government curriculum are intertwined. This here is an interactive constitution. You can go through and take a look at this at your own time. You can read about the Constitution. You can go to the portion of the Constitution that you want to take a look at. We'll just go down to an amendment. Let's say we can go to something like the 8th Amendment about cruel and unusual punishment. It will read the amendment to you. If we scroll down a little bit, and also, which is right here, it will also read some interpretations of or give you some interpretations of the 8th Amendment. They have an area of debate, and so it's a really neat source to go to that we'll reference back throughout the course. So I just wanted to kind of let you know that the National Constitution Center is partnered with AP Government and the College Board together. So there's a link to their site. So the first part of the Constitution is the preamble. Some of you guys might have even had to memorize this at some point. I did back in 5th grade. What it does, the preamble, is it's the introduction, and it outlines what the goals of the document were. And really, there were 6 goals. Number 1, they wanted to form a more perfect union. Number 2, they wanted to establish justice or fairness. Number 3, they wanted to ensure domestic tranquility. Well, we're talking there about a peaceful country here at home. They wanted to provide, number 4, for the common defense. They wanted to promote the general welfare, which when we're talking about the general welfare, we were talking about the general well-being of the country. And lastly, they wanted to secure the blessings of freedom or liberty to ourselves and our posterity, which means future generations. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So this is extremely important in setting up what the Constitution's goals were. And so you'll want to reference back to this periodically and really think about how does the government go about trying to accomplish these goals today. Give me an example, let's say, of, this is hypothetical, but of how does the government or how has the government tried to form a more perfect union? In what ways have they tried to establish justice or ensure domestic tranquility throughout time and even today? Okay, so that's the preamble, that's the introduction, that's the first part of the Constitution. After the preamble, you have the articles, which the articles are the substance or the meat of the Constitution. And you have 7 of them, and I've outlined them here. And it starts with the legislative branch, which is the longest part of the Constitution. And it's tells all about Congress and their powers, responsibilities, requirements, followed by Article 2, which talks all about the presidency. What are the requirements to be president? What are their powers? How are they elected? Talks about election as well for the legislative branch. Then we go into the judicial branch, including the formation of the Supreme Court and what that entails. Article 4 deals with the relationship between the states, that if we're going to have this federal government where the states have some powers and the national government has some powers, how are they going to relate to one another? And how are states, as individual states, going to relate to one another? And we'll dive deeper into that in the future when we get into federalism. Article 5 deals with amending the Constitution. So when the Constitution needs to be amended, this is where we would go. Again, we will dive into this, but there are two methods for proposing an amendment and two methods for ratification. Article 6 talks about the supremacy of the Constitution, this idea that the Constitution is supreme over all other laws by the federal government or the states. And lastly, Article 7 deals with the ratification, that once the document was created, it said 9 of the 13 states that were original members of the country and original members of the Constitution had to ratify it in order for it to become the law of the land. Okay, and then the last part are the amendments. Amendments 1 through 10 are known as the Bill of Rights. These are the protections. These are what protect individual rights by limiting government's powers. And originally, these only applied to the federal government. As we go through our study here in the next couple of months, you're going to find that now most of them actually apply to state governments as well through something called a selective incorporation. And we'll talk about that and how that played out. The amendments 11 through 27 then really fall under 3 categories. They either deal with some sort of structural change to the government, an expansion of government powers, or an expansion of individual rights. So we look at something like a structural a structural change. We take a look at the 22nd Amendment. The 22nd Amendment is what defines the presidency as 2 terms. So this is a structural change. It changed how the government was structured. Now a president could only serve by law 2 terms in the Constitution. We talk about expansion of government power. Well, the 16th Amendment allows the federal government to collect income taxes. So that is an expansion of the federal government's power. And then expansion of individual rights. There's plenty of examples here dealing with the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, amendments known as the Civil War Amendments or Reconstruction Era Amendments, which dealt with expanding rights for newly freed slaves. You have the 19th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, the 24th and 26th that all deal, and actually 23rd too, all deal with voting of some sort. The 15th Amendment gave African American males, the right to vote, kind of. It took some time for that to play out, actually almost 100 years for that to play out. The 19th Amendment, women's right to vote. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. And we'll get to all of these amendments over the course of this class because they are fair game on the AP exam come May. So right now, I just wanted to introduce you to the Constitution, the structure of it, to kind of give you some framework with which we are going to be working.